Hey guys, this is John here in Los Angeles with the Alpha Channel update for Thursday, November 21st, 2024. And today's conflicted card is the Jack of Spades. This is conflicted deck 1. This is a really simple question. You can probably read it if I hold it still enough for you. It is, what one skill for the end of the world do you not have now that you would like to learn before it happens? And I probably won't learn how to do this because I have a ton of stuff on my plate. I have a lot of things to learn how to do. I can think of two, actually. I just thought of a second one that I would like to learn. The first one I thought of earlier is I would like to learn how to make soap for very obvious reasons. It's valuable and you can blow stuff up with it. So I would like to learn how to make soap, but I would also like to learn how to make honey. When I was 17, I got stung by a bee and had an allergic reaction, so maybe that's not such a good thing for me. But I would invest in someone else making honey, and I would learn how to make soap. So that's what I would do. The obvious answer is first aid, medical, but God, you know what? I don't want to do it now. And I certainly wouldn't want to do it under the conditions at the end of the world. I'd rather make comics. Tarzan, Lord of the Jungle, number 17. I think this is number 17. Where's the number on this one? Yeah, it's up here at the top. This is cool. So Tarzan has now gone to David Kraft's version of the center of the earth. And they have a name for it. It's like Piccolo or something like that. Pellucidar. Tarzan, drawn by Roy Thomas. No, drawn by John Buscema. I'm going to cut that out. Tarzan, drawn by John Buscema, and inked and colored by Klaus Janson. I counted 11 instances of zip tones, and we are going to go through those and point them out today. It really is useful. And now that it's digital, you know, it's tempting not to make it just like a go-to, I guess is the right word. But you know what? The really hard thing about it is getting it to go with the contour of fabric. And that's why you have to use it sparingly. Tarzan, not Conan, has just gone through a portal into the center of the universe. I was just listening to a What Am I Reading by Chuck Dixon, and he has written a couple Conan books, and we did a whole bunch of Conans, and Roy Thomas and John Buscema did Conan, and I'm a huge Conan fan. Tarzan is just Conan without the mercenary background. So here Tarzan has gone through the portal. This is the third issue by David Kraft. This is funny. Remember the ongoing feud where first he was an author, and the second one, he was just words. Well, the third one, he was credited with story. He's still not a writer. But at least he got credited as story. And his Jewishness is on full display in this one. Yeah, there's a couple entries about socialism. The way the white mercenaries behave, the way he writes white parasocial, friendly, I suppose a better word would be not mercenary, but like work-life relationships. Total Jew. He writes like a woman. Just doesn't understand guys. Just doesn't understand. Yeah, it's pretty obvious. So we also get our first bit of zip tone right here on this panel with Tarzan. The shade under his shoulder and body is some zip tone use right there by Klaus Janson. I hope I'm holding this up for the camera right. I noticed that a few times it ends up not being quite in frame. Sorry about that. But we also get some more down here in the Mad Arab's hood. The bottom, this side, I suppose it's your left, my right panel. And so here's what's going on. The Mad Arab has gone through the portal. The princess has gone through before them and gone missing. They don't know where she is. They can't find her. And Tarzan has come in behind them and they don't know it. And then we get this huge splash page. Check this out. We had a nice splash page here. And we also get a big one page here. John Buscema doesn't really do many double page spreads. I don't think I've ever seen one from him. You get some nice double page action layouts, but not a double page where they're put together. And so here the Mad Arab and the mercenaries are bickering back and forth. And it's just really Jewish dialogue. It's smarmy. Everyone's a piece of shit. Tarzan on the bottom panel by Klaus Janson gets some zip tone on his face for the shadow. I want to take another look at that myself. Yeah. On this page, now this is interesting. At first you think Tarzan has woken up and is dressed a little different, and he runs into the princess. And he's also wearing a necklace of teeth. But it's not Tarzan. It just so happens to be a relatively attractive white native. And the only way they dressed him up different was giving him a necklace. They could have given him a million other things. They could have given him a strap. They could have given him... He has a spear and a knife, but still, all that had me thinking was, where did Tarzan get a spear and a knife, and why is he dressed different? And so Princess Aisha then gets attacked by hyenodons, which are just hyenas with a different name. There's nothing lizard about them. It would have been crazy if these were lizard-hide hyenas. And to escape them, she goes into the river, but the river has crocodiles. I can practically hear the Tarzan the cartoon music. And if you guys have not seen Tarzan the cartoon, it's like 1977, I think, or 78. It is awesome. The music is just great, and I can literally hear it in my head as these different panels play out. So, one of these hyenodons, as it attacks the princess, gets hit with a spear, and it is actually this savage who is not Tarzan, but looks like Tarzan, and he has a tooth necklace, probably of hyena teeth, or maybe crocodile teeth. And these hyenodons are actually quite large. And in order to distract the crocodiles, he throws the hyena that he killed into the river, and the crocodiles go after that instead of the princess, and he rescues the princess. And in a Jewish bit of anti-white humiliation ritual, he makes this white native immediately bow down and worship the black princess. And that might just be the degenerate Jews' worship of any tall females, but this is also anti-white clergy plan, Jewish culture poisoning, well poisoning, let's face it. You know, a lot of guys are doing the meme of 110, but you guys, Yemen and Afghanistan have thrown out the Jews in the last few years, so we're going on 112. 110 and 111 have already happened. So here we get this native taking Princess Aisha with him back to his tribe. So this is a new introduction. You always get this, you especially notice it in the 50s science fiction stuff. Whenever a weak writer writes himself into a corner, instead of coming up with a clever solution on the part of his characters, instead of giving one of his characters a resourceful solution, they bring in a new power dynamic by introducing a new character or a new group of characters. It's weak writing. It's bad writing. Now, you're always going to have a group of characters living in this savage land, in the Khazar savage land, in the Hollow Earth. I mean, obviously. But in this issue, this is not followed up. So that's weak writing. He introduced hyenas and then crocodiles, and his only solution was to... Now, I don't know if this was if this was John Buscema or David Kraft who did this. Maybe John Buscema came up with the savage, and so it's partially on him. But David Kraft writing in the whole worship thing. Here we get some more zip tones, and I didn't see if there was any on this past page. I think there's gotta be. Give me just a second. Okay, So the zip tones on this 2-page spread, first you get them on the background down here behind the hyenodon. I don't know why it's called a hyenodon instead of a hyena, but that whole background has zip tone, and that's what really, it's almost a single color plate, and then that's what separates it out. You also get it on the Savage's body right here in the foreground, to knock that back, to show off that, you know, shadow. And there's one other, oh, you also get it on his body here as he leaps over the hyenas. And then on the next page, there's a few other places. Let me hold this up again for a second, just in case I held it out of frame. On the next page, there's a couple that are almost hard to see. One of them is right in your face, and I didn't even notice it. So check this out. His whole back is zip toned right here. The bottom panel on this page, Tarzan, it's not even Tarzan, the Savage's whole back is zip toned. God, I hope this is in frame. But now I lost my page. Plus this wall over here, as the Savage leads Princess Aisha away, is zip toned. I don't know if that's a boulder or whatever it is. A cliff face. And then we get the next page where the Mad Arab and the mercenaries are having their bickering back and forth. We get a couple comments about socialism. The Mad Arab threatens them and says, "You swore loyalty to me. You better remember your place or I will end you." He literally threatens their life. This is poor dialogue. This is where the Jew really exposes himself as a, you know, just a shitty human, just a shitty person who can't have a decent conversation. The test of a good writer is to write a conversation between two or more characters, between more than two characters. Two characters is easy. You can have an antagonist and a protagonist. There's an antagonist and a protagonist in every scene, in every conversation, in every fictional narrative. However, when you get three characters involved, especially if none of them are the main character, that's where a writer really has to stretch, really has to do some work to exhibit different personality types. He does it, but they're all shitty people. Their motivations are all self-centered. Even though Socialist one is about ego, and they're all about dominance, and there's no teamwork in any of them. Part of that is the situation, and that they're all lying to each other, but that's also part of how the Jews go about the world. That's what a Jew sees in the world. That's why all these mercenaries are these people. He could have written something completely different for all their motivations. He could have written something different from the beginning, especially if they were going to become allied to the Mad Arab. All they've done so far is lie and lie and lie. They don't even seem to have a real goal. If their goal was something in Hollow Earth, that would be interesting. But there's none of that here. There could be all kinds of dialogue about finding their way, the entrance to Hollow Earth, and that it's rumored to be here, and that they read it in some ancient Egyptian manuscript, that the Mad Arab got there before them, and blah, blah, blah. You could have all that sort of wizardry shit that they usually do in Conan. There's a million different ways you could do this. You could do archaeology, you could do magic, you could do a million different things. The road to El Dorado, all kinds of different rumors. You don't have to do what they're doing. Just like this weird socialism mercenary game hunter fucking stupidity. So here we get another zip tone on the Mad Arab's face, and then we finally cut back to Tarzan, who was not the Savage with the princess. He's still wearing the cheetah loincloth and not just a leather loincloth. So it is obviously Tarzan. He does not have a tooth necklace, a crocodile tooth necklace, and now he's woken up by an aborigine riding a giant blue bird. Now, okay, so this is maybe John Buscema and the Marvel method, just, hey, do whatever you want and we'll write it out, you know? Maybe this was David Kraft ahead of time, that he said, put him on a giant blue peacock. Maybe, I don't know, I don't care. I don't care. After the mercenary scene, I'm just exhausted with this guy. So here's Tarzan. Tarzan is just like Conan. This guy immediately threatens him, and Tarzan, knowing is half the battle, but the other half of the battle is extreme violence. And that the knowing is knowing your distance and knowing your attack vectors and all that sort of stuff. Tarzan kills 3 of these fools before they are able to do anything to him. And even then, he escapes. Literally, Tarzan kills 3 of them and escapes. Now, okay, in a cartoon, he would knock one out, knock one down, and knock one off his horse, and then jump off the cliff into the river below. But in this one, he literally kills them. So, you got to give it up to Marvel Comics for that. In the 70s and 80s, comic books were the only place you could go to get unrestrained violence. And here we get Tarzan landing in the water. Now this is interesting. Apparently Tarzan knows something about the Savage Land. He knows something about the nature of the Savage Land. There's a scene back here in the very beginning that I need to point out. This scene right here where the Mad Arab points out that there is no horizon, that they're in a loop, right? Which is interesting and also kind of not possible for what happens here. Because what happens here is Tarzan is on the other end of the loop. It'd be like a Taurus knot, right? And what happens is Tarzan dives into the river and swims to the bottom where gravity shifts. He dives, goes through the center of the earth, gravity shifts, and now he literally comes out in China so it'd be like if gravity here is pulling you down, he dives, this is the center, and now he comes up for air on the other side, and he meets a gang of white pirates who are obviously not the group with the savage who has Princess Aisha. There's no point where Tarzan turns around and comes back up, and the way this is written, it's written that he dives through the center of the earth. Now maybe these guys are down at the base of the cliff, maybe. And maybe it's also a big circle, and what Tarzan has done is, so the way it's written here is that you're on the inside of a hollow ball, and so maybe Tarzan has dove down one side or something. I don't know. It's not clear. It doesn't really matter. All that matters is that there are now a bunch of pirates in space, and we'll see what they have to say tomorrow. So we have 2 new groups, the pirates and the savages, and the other savages, the black savages riding the blue birds. So there's at least 3 groups inside the Hollow Earth. Then you have the Mad Arab, all of his black slaves, none of which are with him, the mercenaries, and Tarzan, and Princess Aisha. So Princess Aisha's village, the slaves who work for the Mad Arab could come in and rescue her. There's a million things that could happen with this. It'll be interesting to see what the Jew writer does. He's obviously of the tribe. Today's episode is brought to you by Legacy of Mad Scientist, Legend of Ashley Fox. 2 amazing science fiction, fantasy, epic novels here for you for free. You can download the ebooks. You can buy the paperbacks. I think they're $16 each on Amazon. We also have a comic book for you in the description, Ashley Fox Ninja Babysitter. Go ahead and check it out. It's in the links in the description. There's tons of stuff in there. There is some stuff I wanted to talk about, specifically criticism versus evaluation. Okay, so what I'm doing with this is evaluation, especially when it comes to the zip tones, and I think we probably missed a couple towards the end. I'm looking to see what I can do. I was working on pages before I recorded this today. I did another chapter last night, writing, and I'm working on panels this morning, adjusting them and working them out. There's got to be some zip tones on this page somewhere. I think I found some, but I don't remember where they're at. But anyhow, the point is criticism versus evaluation, right? And I didn't mention yesterday what I'd wanted to say with this all the way. Oh yeah, look at this. All this water and Tarzan is all zip-toned on this page. So I reviewed Cyberfrog, by Ethan, and I reviewed Starlight Cats by Shane. I do not want to review Accend what's the other name of it for Shane Davis's book? It's Accend and something else. Inglorious Rex. I don't want to review those right now, or Godlike right now, because he's still in the middle of the arc. He hasn't gotten to like book 5. He hasn't solidified in his mind maybe where the story is going. Now, I have no influence, right? No one's listening to my channel. No one's watching this. That's kind of a benefit in that I can say whatever I want. But I don't want to review that. And I don't want to review Godlike right now because John Malin just put out the second one. And if I missed backing it by just a few days, so that means I have to buy it on eBay now to review it or to even read it. And I want to read it. But if I'm going to read it, I want to review it on here. I want the freedom to review all the comics I read on here, to evaluate and share with you guys any hints, tips, and tricks that I learned. I want to review Michael Bancroft's stuff, but I don't want to review Lucen while he's still working on it. I want to give him time to finish it. And to that end, I might buy and review the first 5 graveyard shifts. I really want to look in detail at John Malin's art because I want to see how he does what he does and what he learned from Rob Liefeld, and you know where it crosses over with Wally Wood and Frank Miller and John Buscema and you know all this sort of stuff. But I don't want to influence the story that he's working on, and I can be very, very ruthless. I'm very 7th grade with my criticism. I have reviewed on this channel some books by creators who have ongoing campaigns right now. And I saw what Ethan did with his latest Comicsgate, where he brought in a whole bunch of new people last night. And I can see that he wanted Bancroft to be part of that group. And it's very interesting what's happening right now on YouTube and how all of this is building and what it is and what it means, not just for the future of comics, but for, look, comics has the most accessible creative teams to the public, right? They've always had that with the writer's page. You don't get that with the TV show. You don't get that with movies, not really. You know, you get panels at conventions and Q&As, which more and more are televised, but they used to be invite-only things where you had to be a member of some sort of guild to get to go to those and to get to hear the little pearls of wisdom. That, look, these are literal pearls of wisdom. There are things watching on, you know, John Malin last night did a huge review of Guy's artwork, and I couldn't watch all of it straight through because it fried my mind and I had to disconnect for a while here and there, but I hope it's still online. I'll go back and watch that again. You know, there's a lot of good details there that you can't just go ask a guy this. You can't go ask a guy, hey, give me 5 hours of your time and tell me everything you know about drawing that you've learned over the last 20 years. You know, I've told this story before here too. When I was first working as an editor after getting out of animation school here in Los Angeles for a promotions company, the owner of that promotions company was about 10 years older than me, and he told me a story about how he had been working on set as a young production assistant, PA, and they were wrapping for the day, and on set there's a lot of shit going on. There's a lot of equipment. You have to have generators to make sure the power, if the power doesn't fluctuate, the regular power in the grid fluctuates, and that means that the cameras will not work at a consistent speed, and that the cameras and the sound will not sync up. It's a notorious problem. And so you have to bring generators to set everywhere you go, and they require these massive cables. And so the gaffers, who are the electricians, they there's a way to wind up an extension cord. I worked in construction for a long time. My father was an electrician. I worked as an electrician before I went into the Marine Corps. Worked as an electrician after I got out of the Marine Corps, both in Illinois and out here. Not before I went into the Marine Corps, just as like helping my dad. But I did do it professionally for about 6 years, 3 to 6 years, off and on, in construction. And there's a way to wind up extension cords so they don't become a spaghetti mess in the back of the truck. Basically, and it's the same thing with a rope. And I learned this in the Marine Corps too. You have to hold it, and then as you pull it out, you turn it, and wind it back up so that it naturally winds. And you give it a twist with your hand and wind it back up. And so this kid was showing my boss, who was a PA at the time, how to do this because it was the end of the night. He asked if he could help. Hey, can I help? He's like, yeah, okay, but do it like this. And he showed him how to do it. And the gaffer's employer, his boss, his foreman essentially, crew chief, came over and slapped the extension cord out of his hand. And my boss was watching. He was a young kid. And this other guy, who I'd never heard his name, never met him, I knew the guy who was witnessing this, he said, you like your job? And the kid said, yeah. He goes, do you want to keep it? He said, yeah. Then don't go teaching everybody else how to do it. So there's a lot of that. That's a new concept. That was a new concept to me in Hollywood because the military is not like that. Because you might get shot and the guy next to you needs to know how to do your job. You might call in sick. Now, in Hollywood, you might call in sick. But as far as I'm concerned, you need to know, like, that's... Obviously, with Hollywood, not everyone... Look at how fast AI is replacing people's jobs. I was listening to someone talk just last night about how special effects guys who are really expensive are getting replaced by AI and computers and plugins, essentially. So... Now that won't really happen with illustration. What I love about comics is how much the creative team is crushed into a small group and you can focus on the things that are important, like the story and the direction of the story. And that's why I don't want to review these guys' books, because I can be incredibly ruthless and cruel, and that's not fair. That wouldn't help them. And at the same time, I want to help all of us grow. This idea that, you know, keeping all the hints, tips, and tricks for yourself, slapping the extension cord out of the guy's hand, it's different on a set, okay, where everyone has jobs, I guess. I mean, it makes sense that it's different, but when you get into the editing bay and you're holding on to the little hints, tips, and tricks that you can do that set you apart from the other guys on your show, and then your segments look different from their segments, that's not good for the show as a whole. It's kind of like, look, it's a lot like what Marvel had to deal with before Rob and Todd and Jim and Mark Silvestri and the Image guys showed up and started doing everything different. Everyone drew the same, sort of like Buddhists not putting their name as an author, not putting their ego, not putting their mark on the work. But the mark is what the work is about, especially when it's artwork. Bringing that special something is why you're there. If you're just going to do the same thing everyone else has done for 1,000 years, then your community won't grow. It becomes stagnant, becomes dead. So comics, what's going to happen with comics over the next 20 years? It's going to be interesting. I've noticed in the last 6 months or so, I saw a 2,000 book collection going for $400 the other day. Gen X is the last generation that cares about comics. You'll get some new kids to continue doing the work, but video games are going to displace them in a big way, especially when everyone can do a video game the way AI is going to allow them to, that it will not allow them to do their own comic book. Comics require, I was in there doing a panel today. It takes some effort, it takes some work, you gotta learn. So the barrier to entry is really high. Just like skating, and that's what I love about it. I love the challenge of it. Today I'm trying to fit 7 panels into a 6-panel page, and it's not easy. So, all right, I've talked too long. There's a bunch of shit on here that I wanted to say that I don't remember, but we'll get to it tomorrow. See you guys.